Welcome to the channel if it's your first time here, and welcome back if it's not. Now in today's video, which is sponsored by AliExpress, we're going to be having another look at this. And if you've seen the video I put out recently, this is a brand new Nintendo Entertainment System clone. Now I found it to be quite an interesting clone console because for the PPU, or the Picture Processing Unit, it uses this, which is an FPGA chip. And essentially this is a chip that thinks and identifies as a Nintendo PPU and sort of does all the operations that a standard Nintendo PPU would do. But the console also has this, which is a Nintendo CPU. Now this is actually called a Dendy, which is a clone of the original Nintendo CPU. That video that I made on this actually blew up and went mad. A lot of people seemed quite angry at this console, poor little thing, because it didn't sound correct to them. That was a bit of an issue with this console, and also something that I didn't like about it was the sort of form factor, really. I think it's a really cool idea, but I just wasn't a massive fan of this transparent fingerprint magnet. I picked this up on AliExpress and it was around about 80 to 90 pounds. I'll make sure there's a link in the video description for you to get this at the best possible price. And if you want to save a little bit of money, what I'll do is I'll put some coupon codes in between my hands that you can use to save some more money on AliExpress. Now the coupon codes do have a limited life, so yeah, if they've expired, then maybe look in the video description and I'll make sure there's some up-to-date ones in there. It seems that a lot of the audio is actually sort of made and generated by the CPU. So in theory, if we take out this clone Dendy CPU and put in an original Nintendo NTSC CPU, we should have a console that has the benefits of this, which has an HDMI output, it's got a VGA output, and it's got a really good RGB and I think S-video output as well. But it should play and sound and look like an original Nintendo Famicom console. So in today's video, we're going to give it a go. But we're going to make things a little bit better, and we're going to say goodbye to this for now, and we're going to say hello to this. This is the same clone console, but it's actually in a newer and slightly more authentic-ish case. It's very much designed on the original Nintendo Famicom, which was released in Japan. It's got the same sort of design notes, but yeah, it's essentially what I just showed you, but in a slightly more Nintendo-y case. Because the original Famicom had hardwired controllers, but this actually has the sort of standard Nintendo controller ports on the front. And then it's got all the different outputs on the back. And then on the top, we've got a power and a reset button. And this is just a fake button. It says setting, but that's not a button. I think it's there more for aesthetics. And then on the side here, we've got the sort of Famicom controller port, and this was used for a specific Famicom light gun and also some slightly weird controllers that the Famicom console had. And then yeah, on the back, we've got what we had on the other console. We've got the DC in, it doesn't matter if it's center negative or positive. We've got the HDMI output, we've got a VGA output, we've got headphones output, which essentially gives you the sound if you're using the VGA output. And then we've got a full RGB, S-video and composite video out. And that's a Sega Saturn video connector there. And then, yeah, this guy on the front here is actually a little flap. So that's really good. It keeps the console dust free. I mean, you know, it would have been cool to have maybe some sliding mechanism, but yeah, I kind of like it. And obviously it's the Qinglu Famicom system. So yeah, it's not exact replica of the Famicom. It's just in the style of it. And I think to me, it's a lot more aesthetically pleasing than that guy. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Do you prefer this kind of thing or that kind of thing? No, but also you can actually have the best of both worlds, because on AliExpress they sell a version of this in a slightly transparent case. Now this guy will set you back sort of just over 100 UK pounds, which is a lot of money. And this guy also comes with a Dendy CPU in it, so a fake clone CPU. But what I have here is something that I picked up, which is an original Famicom CPU and an original Famicom PPU. And also it's got a crystal as well. But we're basically going to take the Dendy CPU out of this and put in the Famicom CPU and see if it actually makes any difference to the sound. And if it does, in theory, if you put the CPU in and you get perfect sound, then have quite a decent clone console there that should hopefully appease the audiophiles. It's disgusting what you do to speakers, you naughty people. What I thought I'd do in this video is we can have a quick look at this, we can fire it up as is, and I can show you some different games playing through it, and then we can dismantle it, we can swap out the CPU for the original Nintendo CPU, and then I can record the game footage all over again, and we can see how it all looks and performs. And we can then also compare it to an original unmolested Nintendo. Well, actually it's a Famicom AV that I've got. And we can see what it's all like and then maybe come to a bit of a conclusion. Now the problem with me showing you consoles on my videos is both that camera there and this camera here, they record at 4K at 25 frames per second. Now these consoles effectively output at 60 frames per second. So we have a bit of a mismatch there because 60 does not divide nicely into 25. I essentially bring the audio and video output of this down to 25 frames per second. So that means that I believe it will sound slightly different, and also the movement won't be as slick and fluid as it actually looks in reality. So what I will do is I will produce a separate video that contains the sample video and audio footage directly out of these consoles at 60 frames per second, and you'll be able to see and hear them exactly as they are. I will include clips and things in this video, but just remember they have been manipulated down to fit into the 20 frames per second timeline and aren't in their original format. If you just follow the link that I put in the video description or up in the corner, you will see the raw audio and video footage directly out of these consoles. So I think what we'll do now is we'll get this set up and I'll just have a quick play through some games as is. So it's got the PPU that is the FPGA chip and the Dendy or fake CPU, and we can see how that performs. And then after that, we can get this cracked open, have a look inside it, and then swap out the CPU for an original and see if that makes it sound or look any better. So yeah, let me have a little shifty around. We can get this all set up and we can see how it performs as it comes. Okay, so we can give it a little test now. So we've got this EverDrive N8 cartridge here that I picked up from AliExpress. It cost me about £20. I'll stick a link to it in the video description. So we'll just lift up our flap and put it in. Again, that's not too tight to push it into. Stop it. Sometimes clone consoles can have really horribly tight cartridge slots, but that one seems okay. So yeah, if we just power it on, should boot everything up, and we should go to our EverDrive menu where we can select the game. So what I'll do is I'll just go for a bit of Super Mario Bros. 3. Now if we press select and start and press up, it will cycle through some different colour palettes. I think there's 4 of them. They're all really down to personal preference which one you like. I think I like that one the most. And then if you do select and start and left, that will change the resolution that the console outputs in. I'm going to keep it as it is because that will just mess up my capture. If you press select, start and right, that will turn on or off scan lines. Now that only works on the HDMI output and the VGA output. That doesn't work on the RGB output. Same with the switching resolutions. And if you press select and start on B together, it will reset the console, but we won't want to do that. So let's just try a game and see how it plays. It seems to play fine. I reckon some of you in the comments might be shouting about it sounding wrong or something. And like I said earlier, I'll make sure all this footage is available in its proper 60 frames per second mode in a separate video, which I'll link to in the video description. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to tear it apart, and we can have a little look inside, and then we can swap out the Dendy fake CPU and put in a real Nintendo CPU and see if that makes any difference at all to the sound. So let's get out the grey mat and do that. Okay, so to get into this, we need to flip it over and undo these 6 screws here. So while I'm unscrewing this clone Nintendo console, let's shout out my channel members. Channel members have gone one step above subscribing to the channel and actually offer a small monthly donation. If you want to help out more and become a channel member, then just scan the QR code in the corner of the screen or follow the link in the video description. Anyway, our channel members at time of editing are the Kip Fans, who are Matt Lovey's JRC Electrical, For the Burbs, Wayne Cornish, Scott Made a Thing, Draco MacGyver, Rebecca, Gigsy80, Christiane, Francesco Demare, Music Me, Jim Wood, Justin Alford, Coaster Chelsea and Charlotte Hadland. And then you have to get up really early to beat the Kip Early Birds, who are Tim Salt, Sorcerer Stan, Mark C, Rob Lynn, Joseph Neal and Paul Monaghan. And then I love these people so much. They are so awesome. They are the Kip lovers, and they are Bella Webster, Stestics Fix, Lawrence, Scott Kendall, Pross Retrofix, DD Media Production, Lee Benz, Anna David Hughes, James and Danny, and Alex Bennett. Then we've got the nuttiest people I know. They are the Kip Nutters, and they are Becky Boobar, Alan Green and Danielle Adele. And then boom, right at the top there we have got a Kip Mental, and that is RJ Prate. Thank you RJ for your continued support, and big love to all my channel members. Now you might have noticed I have been struggling to unscrew this slightly, and that's because the screws are being held within the casing. They've sort of pushed into it slightly, but we get there in the end, and I think I'm done. Ooh, interesting. That is strange. It seems to be, does actually seem to be a button. What's going on with that? Is it a touch button? It is a switch, and it has LEDs in it. So yes, it is to all intents and purposes exactly the same as this other one. I just don't understand how that button works. It's really strange because there's no way for this button to actually go down and press the switch, because it's got these little pointy out guys either side that stop it from actually hitting the circuit board. I think I need to, before we do anything else, I want to see if that button actually does anything while the console's on. PCB A button, Red Lava FC 5.0. Yeah, I'm just going to have to try this out now. This is fascinating. Well, it's to me anyway. I did think it was strange because the button wasn't actually doing anything and didn't feel like it was actually pressed. Cool, there we go, right. That's weird. The LEDs are flickering. Okay, well the switch doesn't appear to do anything. Okay, well that's interesting. Maybe it's there for future editions. I mean, because on here there's actually like a micro SD card slot as well. But there's no sign of one on the board. So yeah, maybe this is designed with something in mind in the future, perhaps. Right, so anyway, after that little diversion, we can have a proper look at the board. So I'll just sort of move along and you can pause it if anything interests you. So we've obviously got the Cyclone FPGA chip, that is our PPU there. And then here we've got the CPU that we're going to switch out shortly. And we do need to switch the jumpers up here as well to tell it that it's running on a standard CPU rather than a clone one. So in theory, I should just be able to pull out this CPU. Nice. So as we're looking at these, this top guy is our PPU, and this guy down here is our CPU. Is the one marked RP2A03E, and we will get that out. And very delicately make sure the little indent there at the end lines up with a little indent on this end, and then yeah, it should just go into the socket, he says. Whoa, there we go. We're in there like swimwear. Good, right, cool. So our dip switches are set like that because we were using the clone CPU, so we've got to put them back up into this position. And now with them like that, that's telling the console that it's got an original CPU in. So I'm going to use the power of YouTube to get this reassembled, and we can see if it makes any difference whatsoever to the sound. Well, there we go. It looks exactly the same because we've just changed the CPU. So let me get it set up and we can test it, and I'm going to see if I can hear any difference in the sound myself. I mean, hopefully there is, because, you know, it make you purists a little bit cooler, and this whole video won't have been a waste of time. Actually, no, that's not fair. I don't think it is a waste of time because it's interesting to see this console regardless. But yeah, hopefully we fixed the sound or improved the sound. Does it still work? Yes, it does. Good, because I've never used that CPU before, so I had no idea if it was good or not. Okay, let's go back to Super Mario Bros. 3. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hear any difference from the get-go. I'll be honest, it doesn't sound much different to me. But then again, in the first place, I didn't notice much difference between how the clone CPU sounded compared to an original Nintendo. I think what I'll do now is, so you can have a little bit of a comparison yourself, what I will do is I will run the same bits of game on the original Famicom AV, which has had no molesting at all, and then we'll run them on this, the clear version, with the FPGA PPU and the fake CPU, and then we will have them running on this, which has got the FPGA PPU but an original Nintendo CPU, and we'll see if that makes any difference to the sound. I will tell you now that the video output off of this guy with the fake CPU is a little bit brighter because I hadn't changed the palette settings, so the video will look slightly different colours, but we're listening to the sound because that seemed to be what everyone had a complaint about. So let me run all that footage, and then I think I need to listen to it too, and then I'll come back in a second after all that's played and we can discuss how it sounds, and maybe you can tell me in the comments how you think it sounds. So let's check out all that test footage now. It's actually the following day now, and I've been able to get all the audio together and chop it together how you've just seen it, and listen to it and appreciate the differences. Now, I think what we've discovered is that by popping the Nintendo CPU into here, the audio sounds exactly the same as it does coming out of the Famicom AV. Now, yes, when you've got the fake CPU in here, the audio definitely sounds different. Personally, I don't think it sounds too different or too terrible compared to the original CPU. I think it sounds fine, but if you put a Nintendo CPU into these clone consoles, it sounds exactly the same. Now, something I wanted to talk about quickly is expansion audio. Now, I was told by the manufacturer of these clone consoles that this does support expansion audio. So what I've done is I've just recorded a bit with my standard Famicom AV and also this with the Nintendo CPU in. And I'm going to play that for you now, and you can have a listen to see if you can hear the expansion audio. And yeah, we'll discuss the results afterward. Now, what do you guys reckon? Because on my first few listens, it sounded identical to me, and I don't think there was any expansion audio. But after repeating it a few times and listening to it again and again, I think there is a very slight and subtle difference. Now, I don't know whether that's the expansion audio, or I don't know whether there's sort of some kind of processing in this that the Famicom AV does differently. I don't really know much about expansion audio. I've not listened to it loads, so I'm not really in the best position to comment. So maybe if you've got any thoughts on that, let me know in the comments section. I think this has expansion audio like the manufacturer suggests, but I'm not sure. But I'm sure some of you have got really good ears and can probably hear a bit of a difference. So yeah, I think by putting an original Nintendo CPU in this paired with the FPGA PPU, it's a pretty solid console for me. Now again, I know not everyone likes this kind of console and it's terrible and blah 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 blah. But I think if you want a decent clone of a Nintendo console that supports HDMI, VGA and the sort of standard AV out, this is perfect for you. You can use original controllers, you can play all the Famicom games, or you can use an EverDrive to play backups of your legally owned Famicom games. And yeah, I think it's really, really good. Something else that I forgot to show you yesterday when I was testing the console is, remember on the settings button that isn't really a button, there were those LEDs. They are actually power LEDs. I think when I dismantled it, I dislodged the connection slightly, but if we plug in some power, might have to dim the lights for this. But if I turn this on now, you should see a power LED through this button slightly. There you go. So yes, I guess if you've got one of these or one of these guys, if you pop in an original Nintendo CPU, you're going to have some really good gaming through them. And even if you don't, I still personally think the sound isn't terrible enough to ignore this completely. But, you know, So if there's anything you'd like me to check out or try on this console, then please do let me know in the comments. But yeah, I don't think I've got anything else to say. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But for now, it's game over.